Filming more takes doesn't necessarily mean a better outcome. Sometimes it can make your film look worse. As a director, you can follow the formula that is fairly simple. More takes, more options in editing. More options in editing, better edit. Better edit, better film. But that's not necessarily always true. Now sure, you can argue that Stanley Kubrick did like 50 takes for The Shining and it made one of the most iconic scenes ever, but I would say that's an exception, not a rule. And everything after 7 or 8 takes, either it is a really technically complicated shot, so multiple different things have to align, actors' lines, movements, placement, lighting is moving, so it is either a very technically challenging shot or you already have it. Let's focus more on the actors in this equation right now. When they are in a couple of first takes, everything is kind of fresh in their mind. They have maybe room to improvise, to play with the lines, and to kind of feel the scene instead of performing it completely. And the more notes you give as director and the more specific you are with, oh, move this cup just 4 centimeters to the right so it can be just a tad out of focus, the more they're gonna start performing and not actually acting and feeling and being in the shot. So the longer you stretch on and move those shots, the more the actors are going to feel robotic and performative rather than actually feeling and being in the moment and being in the shot. Because they're going to be in their head thinking about a million different things. And sure, sometimes the shot is super technical, so they have to, and that's where great actors are extremely valuable and important. But for some takes, it is better to let the actors do their own thing and follow their own instincts than to just, be a little bitch about moving the cup like 4 centimeters to the right, because as the actors get more into their head, they start again performing, not acting, which is in the end a negative thing, even though you will have more takes for the edit. So your job as a director is not to squeeze every ounce out of that actor. It is actually to pay attention and to know when the scene felt most authentic, the most real, the most emotional, and when the story is being carried forward. Now sure, if you know the actor for a long time and if you've been working with the actor for a long time, then you might know how to squeeze the best out of that actor by pushing them further. But if you're working with the actors you haven't really been working with, or maybe the actor just doesn't have the technical skills to push themselves that far because they're just not that great of an actor yet, because as everything, it is art and you have to practice and sharpen it. Your job as a director is, if everything is technically correct, if the lighting is good, if the focus is, crisp and sharp, if everything is technically sound, your job as a director is to recognize when the emotion is felt, when the beat was right, and when the story moves forward naturally, and when it looks good and coherent. Not to just push everything bit more for safety. And sometimes, especially in the older movies, you as a director had to make a choice that, sure, let's move on because that take was amazing, even though it was maybe a bit soft in the focus. But it doesn't matter, because if it was good, if the emotion was felt, if it was raw, if it was real and intentional, then it doesn't matter, and the audience will easily forgive if it's a bit soft and a bit out of focus, if you actually make them feel the emotion from the scene. So it is very easy to kind of fall into the trap of doing more takes for kind of technical security, and maybe you even start to second guess your own judgment, and it was very super short shot and super short scene, so you're like, did I get it right? Maybe I wasn't paying attention. And sure, you can always ask for playback and check it afterwards, but sometimes you really also have to trust your gut as a director and know when the scene and the timing and everything was felt right, and not push it super far beyond that. And again, there is the trap of let's just do one more as a director, and I fell into that trap many times, but it usually doesn't give birth to a really great performance or something that is better. Again, unless you know as specifically the actors and how to work with that actor because you know them for a long time. But of course, there are situations when you should do multiple and more takes and force those more takes, and there are very specific situations. Maybe the blocking is super complex, especially if you're doing a commercial. Everything has to happen to the beat of the song that's maybe pre-recorded, or I don't know, you have to have a specific length of the shot because it is for a commercial. Then of course you're gonna do multiple takes because the blocking is complicated. Maybe there is a giant choreography that needs to be nailed perfectly for the shot. If you're doing something with stunts, then you're gonna do more takes because it just takes time for the actors and for everybody to get into the kind of mood and swing of the shot and see how everything moves. And especially with some scenes that are super emotional and highly taxing for the actors, you don't want to push it too far, But then again, you want to do enough repetitions so the actor gets in that sweet spot, because sometimes it is hard for the most professional actors to be just on command, now go, you're crying and you're having a mental breakdown. It's better to do multiple repetitions because the actor can really get into the right mental and emotional space to do that shot correctly. Especially with those shots, it's important that you don't push it too far out of your comfort zone and out of your actor's comfort zone. And again, I am saying this because sometimes you're working with the actors you've been working for over the years, and then they are okay and you are both okay with, pushing each other to go further and better because you know you're gonna get something great. But that's an exception. Same with like Stanley Kubrick. He knew what he wanted to get and it was really specific, and it was literally a mental breakdown, so he kind of caused the mental breakdown to the poor actress. I'm not saying that's something you should do, because you shouldn't, but sometimes pushing for more repetitions is necessary because of some certain circumstances. Let me just cut in quickly with the commercial work, because I do commercial work as well, and I've been on set for commercials for many years, and that is really specific situation because sometimes the blocking and everything is super complex and you just really have to push it for multiple shots until everything aligns perfectly. I've been an actor in one of the commercials where we nailed it on shot 30 because there was 30 actors, we had a dance choreography that we had to do, there was Trinity, there was Ari Alexa, there was focus pulling from one person to the other, and everything was moving backwards. So it was really a complex shot, and sure, on those times you really have to push for more takes because it has to be technically perfect and sound. But some other times when you're just getting a shot of, some beauty shot of a product, you don't necessarily need 20 takes of like a static product that's on the table. Sometimes 2 is just enough, and you as a director here have to step in and say, okay, we got it, it's a simple shot, let's move on, especially on commercials when the time is really, squeezed. Now I know all of this might sound super overwhelming or even critical, and me just saying, oh, just trust yourself bro and shoot a fewer shots can seem a little bit silly because it's not just that simple. And I know it's not that simple, I've been directing for quite a while and it's still not that simple, but filmmaking and directing is an art form, and art takes practice for us to get better at it. So I'm just saying, practice listening to your instincts. When your director instinct says, okay, I think we got it, trust it, and don't give in to the small voice saying,
do one more for safety.
Because most of the time you're just doing damage to timing, people, energy, and everything else, and workflow on set. Most of the time. So that would be it for me for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this video inspired you. Follow me on Instagram at full.frame.production, because there I post my commercial work, my production work, and just some snippets of my daily life as a director producer here in Croatia. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.